Alex Cosper from SacTV.com. I'm here today with Steve Vivaldi, who runs IPM, and that's Investment Property Management in Fair Oaks. And he's deep into real estate. He's worked in property management. Steve, thank you very much. Can you tell me about the real estate market in Sacramento in 2012? What is the health of the market?
Well, from a healthy market, we're not there yet because we have no inventory, and to be in a healthy market, experts and analysts say we should have at least 6 months of inventory in a normal market. Seems like a lot of inventory to have, considering a few years ago we were at 2 years worth of inventory, and we knew that that was not a healthy market. So right now what we're experiencing is a buyout of property by cash investors that represent approximately 30% or more of the market, and we've seen that happening now this year at an extensive rate, where if you go into any zip code and search in the metro list, you will see that the majority of the listings that pop up are pending or sold transactions, with very few being active listings that can be purchased. They're already bought. And that's not in every category or every price range, but in the investment category price range, let's say between $75,000 and just under $200,000, probably more like $150,000 and under, between $75,000 and $150,000 in that affordable home price range for first-time home buyers, it would be very difficult to find a property. And there was an article in the Sacramento Bee not that long ago about how difficult it was for first-time buyers to compete against the cash buyers in this market. If you're trying to go get a loan and you have a realtor and you have a lender and you're pre-qualified, you've worked hard to get to this point where you're ready to buy a home, you're competing with somebody who can come in and close in 2 weeks, pay cash, doesn't ask for anything to be repaired, and usually pays full price or above to obtain the property. So if you're competing with them and you have a 30-day escrow or a 45-day escrow because you need to get a loan, and you have a loan contingency, so your money's not there in cash ready to purchase and close at title, then you're not as attractive to the seller as the investor. So as prices continue to get stronger and go up, and they are, most of the experts have said that we've hit bottom now.
What was the bottom, 2011?
Well, there was actually the bottom, and then there's what we call the little kind of well at the bottom of the bottom. We hit the bottom, and then we did a little bit more, made a little crater at the bottom of the bottom, if you will. And so we got caught in that for a little while, maybe a year and a half. And now we're out of that, and we're kind of on our way up in the bottom of the bowl, on the side of the bowl, if you will, trying to get to the point where we can be even with the top and maybe spilling out, metaphorically. But there's a lot more that has to happen. Right now there's demand being created for properties because there's no inventory. The next thing that will happen is...
One question about that. Is that artificial or is that real, that there's no inventory?
There's no inventory because the foreclosures, a lot of homes that were in foreclosures and being held by banks, from what I understand, are being rented out rather than being put back on the market. Some of the banks are doing that because they can yield rental income and hold them, waiting for the market to come back and maybe get some appreciation. So you have that going on. You have investors buying them, renting them, flipping. You have people at the courthouse steps that are foreclosing or buying foreclosures, paying cash, and a lot of times they're flipping. You have a vacancy factor that is not very high. There's not that many places for rent, so there's a pressure on the rental market, so there's not a whole lot of rental inventory, there's not a whole lot of purchase property inventory. So what that's going to do is it's going to create a vacuum in both the rental market and the housing market, where you could see a little bit more of a rapid increase in value and in rents. But you can't assume that it's going to continue at a feverish pace. Like,
obviously, no one can predict what's going to happen.
No, but
because in 2005, nobody thought this crash was going to happen, right?
No, no one ever would have imagined that it would have rolled back as far as it's rolled back. And so right now we're seeing a flurry of activity, but it's random. People, you have a segment of the market that this problem has gone on for quite a while, and there's people that have owned property for quite some time. They're getting older. They don't know if they want to hold on to this property anymore because of their age. So you have the senior citizens that purchase property for investment, and they may not want to hold it for another 3 to 5 years waiting for the value to come back to where they need it at that point. So we're starting to see people wanting to sell because we're moving in the right direction.
Is it true that you can actually sell any property if it's the right price threshold?
Well, price is always the key factor, in location as well, but it's a willing buyer, willing seller market, and right now you have the lowest interest rates of all time and the lowest prices in our area, since we've seen some debate. It's late 1990, like 99, 2000, and others say it's around 2003 prices. In the condo market, it's late 1990 prices. In the housing market, it's about 2002, 2003 prices right now.
Okay. One more question, Steve. I go to Zillow.com sometimes to just look up property values. Do you find Zillow to be helpful, or do you think their prices are not quite accurate estimates?
Well, a lot of the people in the lending industry, in the banking industry, and in the real estate industry, and people that what's happened is in the last few years is that the people owning and looking for real estate have become very sophisticated because of the technology available on the internet and the access of them getting almost as much information as a realtor can obtain. You can't access MLS, of course, because that's a closed system, but they can go on and they can get a lot of information about a property that wasn't available before because of Zillow. So Zillow's a great site, and it's also a good site for rentals too. We use it for promoting our rental properties as well, and we're getting good traffic from it. But if you're going to answer your question, if you're going to take and get value for your property on Zillow, you have to consider that it's a fairly generic value assumption. So
ballpark estimate.
Yeah, so there's a swing of percentage of, what does my house have that the neighbor doesn't have? My house faces this direction. I have a pool. Zillow doesn't know that I've redone the entire inside of my house in granite and travertine. So you have to consider those upgrades and improvements. So just kind of, without doing a full real estate broker value of opinion on it, I usually take about a 15 or 20% margin on whatever Zillow says. And I can tell you that's true because I had done some personal stuff recently with a property, and the bank, of course, said, well, Zillow's at X value, and I said, well, that's not what it's worth. And so once the appraiser came in, I was proved right.
Okay.
And it was a considerable difference. So you can take it for what it's worth, but make sure you put in at least 20% would be my guess.
So the Sacramento region, you feel, is doing better than it was, and it's no longer at the bottom, and that things may be more optimistic now than a few years ago.
Absolutely. See, one thing that's great about Sacramento and California in general is that people continue to move here. And yes, you've heard stories about people leaving for different reasons, and the cost of living here was too high, and no jobs, no work, but it is the Golden State, and we have so much here, and there's so much.
The Giants, the A's,
yeah, the Giants,
and the Bay, and then Tahoe. We're in the middle of all this.
Exactly, and so with all of that, and being the capital of the state, there's jobs here, and there's opportunity here. There's people moving here all of the time. We used to have a busy period through about August, and then it would die off, and now it's busy year-round. People are moving more in the fourth quarter and at the holidays, Christmas time, Thanksgiving, towards the end of the year than we've ever seen before. So now we really don't say there's a slow time.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, Alex.